Ed the zebra has finally been captured after sending social media into a frenzy following his escape 9 days ago.
In 2025, a zebra named Ed escaped in Tennessee. Over the next week, he ran through neighborhoods, shut down part of an interstate, became an internet celebrity, and eventually had to be captured by helicopter. And as ridiculous as that sounds, it also explains why humans domesticated horses, but never zebras. So let's start with the actual story. In May of 2025, Ed had just arrived at his brand new home, a private property in Rutherford County, Tennessee. He arrived on May 30th. And by the next day, he had escaped. Nobody knows exactly how he escaped, not even the owners. Listen to what they have to say.
How did the zebra get out?
We're not 100% sure, but we know that there was not like a gate or a fence that was broken or a gate that was left open. We think that it probably just hopped. Just jumped over the fence.
Dumbass!
And once Ed got out, he was gone. Nobody knew where he went. And over the next several days, people started reporting sightings of him around fields, neighborhoods, roads, and wooded areas. Hey honey, look outside. It's a f***ing zebra. And this story gets even weirder from here. Ed was spotted on Interstate 24. And at one point, there was literally a zebra running along the interstate in Tennessee while cars were stopped and people were filming him. And he almost ate shit right there, which is kind of the thing that sounds fake until you see the footage. And naturally, once those videos started spreading online, the internet completely lost its mind. People started making memes, fake wanted posters, and jokes about Ed becoming a fugitive. I want one of these shirts. For a few days, Ed was basically Tennessee's most wanted. But while the internet version of the story was funny, the real situation is a little more complicated. Because authorities weren't just dealing with a lost horse or a farm animal, they are dealing with a zebra. And that matters. Because catching Ed was not as simple as walking up with a rope and leading him home. So before we finish talking about Ed, we need to talk about zebras themselves. Because most people see zebra and basically think, oh, that's a horse in prison pajamas. And I get why. While they are related to horses and donkeys, they are all part of the same family, but related does not mean the same. Zebras have never gone through thousands of years of selective breeding alongside humans. They still behave like wild animals. And that part is why zebras have a reputation among animal professionals as being surprisingly difficult to deal with. Because when Ed was loose in Tennessee, authorities were not dealing with a weird-looking horse. They were dealing with a wild animal that happened to be shaped like one. And once you understand that, the story makes a lot more sense. Now, if all of that sounds a little dramatic, there is another story from the United States that shows exactly why these animals should be taken seriously. In 2023, a man in Ohio was attacked by his own pet zebra. It severely injured his arm, almost bit it completely off. Think about that for a sec, causing major blood loss and requiring emergency medical treatment. But the story didn't end there. When deputies and emergency responders arrived, according to authorities, the zebra continued acting aggressively and even charged at police. Unfortunately, the zebra was shot and killed. No, I'm not going to show that part of the video, but it is out there. Officials believe the animal may have been protecting a group of female zebras at the same field. Like, how many people actually have zebras? I don't know. Now, that doesn't mean every zebra is going to attack somebody. The zebra was behaving like a zebra. But stories like this are just a reminder that zebras are not harmless striped horses. They are fully capable of causing serious injuries. So let's go back to Ed in Tennessee. Because while all the videos and photos were being put out online, Ed was still out there roaming around. He was out there all by himself for over a week. People reported seeing him in fields, near roads, and around neighborhoods. But now we can understand why catching him was not as simple as catching a regular horse. Authorities were trying to safely capture a wild zebra without causing him to panic, injure himself, or run back into traffic, or bite somebody's arm off. Now, fortunately, Ed was located by a drone in a pasture area near a subdivision. Now, the search was finally over. They found him. Now they just needed a way to catch him. And this is where the story became even more ridiculous. A specialized capture team was brought in to help. Ed was pushed into an open area, then a helicopter moved into position overhead and deployed a net to capture him. He was finally restrained. And then, in footage that immediately went viral, Ed the zebra could be seen dangling underneath a helicopter as he was flown across Tennessee toward a waiting trailer. For some reason, it reminds me of this scene from Jurassic Park. But as strange and goofy as the operation looked, it actually worked. Ed was safely captured, and nobody got hurt. Ed was safely returned to his owners. The owners actually decided that's probably not a great idea to own zebras, so they gave him to a wildlife refuge in Texas. Hopefully right now he's telling all of his new zebra buddies about his adventure. While we're definitely glad that Ed's story ends on a happy note, but that brings us back to the real lesson of the story. Because the entire reason this became such a challenge is that zebras are not horses with stripes. They are wild animals and potentially dangerous, and they are much more difficult to handle than most people realize. Another interesting part is that humans actually did try to domesticate zebras. And throughout history, people have ridden on zebras. People have trained zebras. People have even used zebras to pull carts. So the problem was never that nobody thought of it. The problem was that zebras never became practical. And part of that comes down to the difference between taming an animal and domesticating an animal. They are not the same thing. Domestication happens over many generations, and it's how horses became one of the most important animals in human history. Zebras never fit that role. They're more reactive, more defensive, more unpredictable, and generally more difficult to manage, which makes sense when you think about where zebras evolved. For millions of years, zebras shared the landscape with predators like lions, hyenas, leopards, wild dogs, crocodiles, and many more. Animals that can react quickly have a better chance of survival. Animals that hesitate don't. The problem is that those are not necessarily the traits humans look for in a domesticated animal. And once you understand that, the story of Ed the zebra makes a lot more sense. Did you enjoy the story of Ed? Let me know in the comments. Know of any other weird animal stories? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, nature is random and chaotic. I will see you next time.